Hi, boys and girls. We have been learning about when you add ed to the end of a word, and it changes it to the past tense, so that it's not happening right now. It already happened. And sometimes that ed will say t. Sometimes that ed will say d. And sometimes that ed will say ed. It will be the short e sound. When you say it fast, it kind of sounds like an I, which is a short I sound. So sometimes you'll see me write an ID above this just to remind you that when you say it fast, it kind of sounds like id, not ed. I'm going to have you split up your board just like I did and draw some lines. Today, you are actually going to practice writing some of these words. So I'm going to give you a word and show you how to spell it. You're going to listen. So I'm going to give you the root word. Remember, the root word is a word by itself. It's called a root word because we can grow it by adding an ending. So you can grow it, make it bigger, and add an ending to it. So I'm going to give you the root word or the base word. And then you're going to decide, listening to what you hear, what ending do you hear? And then we'll write it. We'll put it together. All right, so here's an example. You can bash a piñata with a bat. You can bash it. Now I'm going to change it to yesterday they bashed a piñata. Bashed. What do you hear? Do you hear t or id? Bashed. Bashed. I hear the T. So over here, I'm going to write bash. And I hear that T, but it's really spelled with an ED. So go ahead and write that as your first word. Bashed. Your next word is, this one's a tricky one. So I can hug someone, or yesterday I hugged someone. Hugged. Hugged. Now, what's tricky about this one? When we add that ending, we're actually going to double this letter. So watch what I do. G. D. And I'm going to stick that right out of space. Write it first. Hugged. And I hear that D sound. Hugged. So notice this letter got added in. They doubled the G. Hugged. All right, here's your next one. You can heat up water. Or, yesterday, I heated up water. Heated. You hear t, d, or ed. Heated. So heated, when you add that ed, it says the id sound or the ed sound. Heated. So you'll write it over here. Heat. Ed. Heated. All right, we have three more. Your next one, I am going to clap for my friends. Or I clapped. I clapped at the ceremony. Which one do you hear? And clap is going to be like hugged, where we're going to repeat this letter. Clapped. I hear, we're going to repeat our P. Clap. Clapped. I hear clapped. I hear the T sound. So go ahead and write it down right over here. Make sure you draw your symbol underneath so you remember that that says t, clapped. Your next word is brand. You might brand a horse, so people know it's yours. Brand. Or yesterday, they branded the horse. Branded. What do you hear when we add ed? So we're going to add ed. Branded. What do you hear? Is it brand? Is it brand? Is it branded? That's going to have that short sound. So it should be over here. Go ahead and write it if you haven't yet. Branded. Branded. And here's your last one. You can drain the noodles, your base word, or yesterday Harley drained. So we're going to add that ed, drained. And what do you hear at the end? Is it drained, 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 or is it drained? Drained. So you're going to do that D around it. It will go right over here. You might be drained. All right, so we will continue practicing this. Today, we practiced actually writing that, adding that ed pattern to the end of base words and practice the different sounds that that ed can make. Remember, you can use the flippy dolphin strategy. If you're reading a word and you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. It's not drained. That doesn't make sense. You can flip the sound for that ed just like we do with our vowels and try a different one that will make sense.